morning, boys and girls, and welcome back to math. We are still continuing our lessons on how to use fractions. So here is today's learning target. I can solve problems involving partitioning an object or a set of objects among two or more people. So basically, boys and girls, we're going to be taking objects and splitting and dividing them up evenly and then using that information to show a fraction, okay? So that is basically the concept of what we are learning today, okay? Because as you noticed, I used the word divided. Fractions are another way of explaining how division works. But we'll get into more details about that when you're a little bit older. But fractions and division are very close related to each other when it comes to the real world, okay? So starting with this first problem, basically how are we distributing pens evenly, or pencils, evenly among friends, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so Caden has 6 pencils. He shared all the pencils equally among 2 friends and himself. I'm going to stop right there, boys and girls. This is a very important sentence right here. He shared all the pencils equally among 2 friends and himself. So boys and girls, 2 friends plus himself, how many people is that total? That is 3 people. Boys and girls, on the test, you're going to see a question exactly like this, probably with different numbers, okay? It is really important for you to understand that there are 3 people that these pencils are being divided into, okay? So really important for you guys to recognize that, okay? Because when he says himself, that's 1, which is Caden. So that's 2 and 1, 3 people. 3 people are going to get an even amount of pencils, okay? So now we need to really pay attention to the actual question it's telling us. What fraction, if the pencils, did Caden keep for himself? Okay, so we need to find out the fraction, how much of Caden kept for himself. So how much did Caden get? So one of these fractions tells us how many pencils each person got, specifically Caden, okay? So we found out back here that we have 3 friends. So let's say we have 1 friend, 2 friend, and Caden. Okay, we got 3 friends. How many pencils do we have in this picture? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so in our fraction, remember, the denominator tells us the total amount of the number that we are working with. So we have 6 pencils. So 6 is going to go on the bottom of this line for our fraction. Now, with that being said, look at our answer choices. We have 3 over 3, 5 over 6, 5 over 6, and then 2 over 6. A has a 3 on the bottom, so we can automatically say that this is a big no-no. So we're left with B, C, or D. Okay. Now, evenly making sure that we have 3 friends that get a pencil. So let's just use the pictures to kind of help us out. So 1 friend gets a pencil. Cross that out. 1 friend gets a pencil. Cross that out. Then Ken gets a pencil. Cross that out. Okay. So all these pencils, we still have some more pencils. So here we go. So another pencil. And then another pencil. And then another pencil. There we go. Okay. So, boys and girls, let's say this is Caden. How many pencils did Caden keep for himself? How many lines do we see here? And don't let this one confuse you. I just wrote it wrong. 2. Okay. So back to the question. What fraction, if the pencils, did Caden keep for himself? He kept 2 of the 6 pencils. So you would say Caden kept 2/6 of his pencils. So that would be left with D. because apparently there was a little bit of a typo because B and C is both 5, 6. And obviously, out of the 6, each one can't have 5. The numbers don't make sense. So D for this problem is correct. So this word problem right here basically demonstrates how we would use this in the real world. You can use it when it comes to pizza. You can use it when it comes to cupcakes, things like that. Really making sure that we're making things equal for others around us. Okay, and that's where fractions come in. Fractions help us divide things up and tell us information that we need to know and that will help us distribute things better. Okay, now let's go down here. Let me scooch this up. Here we go. So for this word problem, we're going to be using the circle. So I'm going to make this a little bit darker so you guys can see it a little better on the screen. Okay. All right, so let's go over the question. The figure below represents a pie divided into 6 equal pieces. So here's a clue word. We have divided and then 6 equal pieces, meaning they're all the same size. Trey and Gabby each ate, so each of them ate, 2 people, each ate the same amount. Okay. Which fraction of the pie did each child eat if the whole pie was eaten? So this picture represents a pie. Trey and Gabby had the exact same amount of pie pieces, and the entire pie was eaten. So what we could do for you visual learners, what you can do is that you can make sure to mark a T for Trey's piece and a G for Gabby's piece. You could do it that way. So why don't we do that way first? So we have 1 piece for Trey, 1 piece for Gabby. Okay, 1 piece per person. Then another piece for Trey and another piece for Gabby. 2 pieces per person. Then we have 1 for Trey again and then 1 for Gabby again, because the entire pie, just like it said, was eaten right here. The entire pie was eaten. Then Trey and Gabby each ate the same amount. So each person ate the same amount of pie slices. So how many times did Trey, so how many pieces did Trey get and how many pieces did Gabby get? They got 3 each. So now we got to go back. How much total? How many equal pieces were there total for the entire pie? 6. So the denominator, that is 6. Does not change. So then we said, because we want to find out which fraction of the pie did each child eat. So, and we talked about it, and we said that Trey ate 3 pieces of pie and Gabby ate 3 pieces of pie, the exact same. So we would say 3/6 of each child ate the same amount of pie slices. So checking our answers. So A basically tells us that Trey and Gabby each had 2 pieces of pie out of the 6. Is that true? No. Does not make sense. So B, Trey and Gabby each had 3 pieces of pie out of the 6 slices. Is that true? Does that match what we just talked about? Yes, because then C wouldn't work because it's saying there's 4 slices for each person. That makes no sense. And then right here, 5 pieces each person gets out of 6 slices. There's not enough pie slices. That would not make any sense. That's why C and D would not work. Okay, so let's go to the next page. Boys and girls, as you noticed, we are using fractions to work with real life problems, especially with food, because with food, we want to make sure that we are dividing things up equally and understanding how much of a whole did each person get. So here we go. Mr. Flowers ordered some donuts for his family. 4 donuts were chocolate and 2 were vanilla. 2 vanilla, 4 chocolate. If Mr. Flowers shares all, key word, all of the donuts equally between himself, his wife, his daughter, and his son, his friend, and his neighbor, what fractional amount of donuts will each person receive? So, boys and girls, we need to find out how many people are there total. So, let's count. Let's say the sentence again. So, Mr. Flowers shares all of the donuts equally between himself, that's one person. His wife, that's another person. His daughter, another person. His son, another person. His friend, that's another person. And then his neighbor, that's another person. Boys and girls, I'm going to pause right here. Sometimes you are going to get word problems that you have to figure out how many people are in this scenario. Sometimes the problems are not going to tell you. You have to figure it out yourself. And that is what we had to do right here. They just gave us a list of different people. So we had to make sure we're counting how many people there are to see if there's enough donuts for everyone. So now we're going to go back and we're going to count how many people there are. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 people that want a donut. Okay, so that's 6 people total. Okay. Now this question right here. What fractional amount of donuts will each person receive? So each person receive. We need to first find out how many donuts there are in total. Not just chocolate, not just vanilla, all of them. Okay, so let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 donuts. There are 6 people. How many donuts does each person get? 1 donut. That's it. There's only enough for 1 per person. So if we have a total of 6 donuts, 1 person gets 1 donut. The fraction would be 1/6 of each person gets a donut. Well, let me reword that. So Mr. Flowers got 1/6 of the donuts. His wife got 1/6 of the donuts. His daughter got 1/6 of the donuts. His son got 1/6 of the donuts. His friend got 1/6 of the donuts. And then his neighbor got 1/6 of the donuts. So 1/6 represents how many donuts each person got. Each person only got 1/6 because then we equally distributed, so it's fair for everyone that each person gets a donut because that's all there was. And that is how you use fractions to help describe how to divide up things up evenly. Okay, so this was the focus portion of this video, okay? So now I'm going to pause because in Schoology, the way it is printed out, you're going to be getting 2 papers that have these shapes that you need to cut up. So I've already pre-cut this. So you have 2 pages that have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 circles. And as you can see, these circles are divided up into different numbers. Okay? This one, there's 2 parts in this circle. There's 3 parts in this circle. 4 parts in this circle. 6 parts in this circle. And then 8 parts in this circle. So the next 2 pages, you need to make sure, if you have it available to you, you would just need to cut these out so that it will help you with the next 3 problems that you're going to be working with me. So if you need to pause this video, please do so now so you can have these pieces cut out. If you cannot print these out, that is okay. Just make sure that you draw these to help you out with this next portion of the video. Okay, so please hit the pause button to make sure that you have these shapes cut out or already drawn, because we're going to be using these shapes for these 3 problems. So make sure you do that now. Okay. All right, boys and girls. So hopefully you have all the materials that you need. We're going to continue on with this video. Okay. Always read the directions before we do anything else. Use the following pieces by cutting them out. After you cut them out, put them in separate stacks. After, read the problems on page 3. This is page 3. And use the pieces to help you solve each problem. Okay, we're going to use these to help us solve each problem. So let's start with problem 1. Caden has 8 pencils. Okay. He shared all the pencils, excuse me, equally among 3 friends and himself. Oop, I'm going to pause right there, boys and girls. This sentence basically told us he shared all the pencils equally among 3 friends and himself. How many people is that total? Is that 3 or is it something else? It's 4. There are 4 people that we're dividing 8 pencils with, okay? Because he needs to include himself when dividing up the pencils. So that's 4 people right there, okay? So 4 people total. I'm going to write that down right here. Make sure you do the same. What fraction, if the pencils, did Caden keep for himself? Okay. What fraction, if the pencils, did Caden keep for himself? Okay. So we need to find out how many each person got. So let's go back. And it says write your answer below in a fraction and use your fraction pieces. So first, we need to find out the total amount of pencils. So how many pencils were there, boys and girls? 8. So I'm going to look for the circle that is 8. So that's 4, 3, that's 6, that's half. All right, here's 8. And always double check, okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, this is 8. Okay. All right, so we have 8 pencils. So here's 8 pencils. So with this one, we might need to chop this up too. So I'm just going to do that super quick. Okay. Okay. There's that one. All right. And then, okay, so we have these pieces represent 8 pencils, okay? And we have how many friends that it needs to be divided up into? 4. Okay, so just like we would do when we're doing pictorial models for dividing, that's what we're going to do, okay? So we're going to have 1 for one friend, 1 for the second friend, 1 for the third friend, and 1 for Caden himself. So right now, each friend has 1 pencil, but we still have some left over. We need to add that on. So then friend 1 gets 2 pencils. Friend 2 gets 2 pencils. Friend 3 gets 2 pencils. Friend 4, Caden, gets 2 pencils. So boys and girls, that's all the pieces that I have left. That was all 8. So now, going back to the question, what fraction, if the pencils, did Caden keep for himself? This was for Caden. How many pencils did he keep for himself? 2. Now, we need to write that in a fraction form. So we know that our numerator is going to be 2 because that's how much Caden kept for himself. But how many pencils were there in total? 8. So this is our fraction for how much pencils did Caden keep for himself. So 2/8 of the pencils Caden kept. Make sure I kept right. Kept. There we go. And that, boys and girls, is our answer to the first problem. Because, boys and girls, you might have the situation where you might need to do that yourself. dividing up pencils and finding out how much does each one get and writing it in a fraction form. Okay, so let's move on to the next problem. We're going to do that, and we'll do this. Want to get that out of the way. Okay. Oh, hopefully you can see that a little bit. There we go. Excuse me. All right. Here we go. Oops. All right. Use the fraction pieces that represent a pie divided into 4 equal pieces. Okay. So, need to find one that has 4 equal pieces. That's this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a hole, and it's cut into 4 pieces. Here we go. All right. So, we have Sarah, Ashley, Trey, and Gabby. Oop, there was a capitalization error. We want to make sure G for Gabby is capitalized. All right. So, Sarah, Ashley, Trey, and Gabby each ate the same amount. Let's stop right there. How many friends is that? That is 4 friends. That is 4 people. So we're going to write that to the side over here. 4 people. Okay. Which fraction of the pie did each child eat if the whole pie was eaten? So here's our pie. Sarah, Ashley, Trey, and Gabby each got the same amount of pie, and the whole thing was eaten. Okay? So now we need to figure out which fraction of the pie did each child eat if the whole pie was eaten. We want to know how much each child ate. Okay, so to make this a little simple, let's make it even. Okay, so this slice, we'll say for Sarah, this slice for Ashley, this slice for Trey, and this slice for Gabby. Wow, all right. So, boys and girls, how many slices did each person get out of this whole pie? 1. There was only 1 slice for Sarah. There was only 1 slice for Ashley. There was only 1 slice for Trey. And there was only 1 slice for Gabby. So, how would we write that in a fraction form? Again, we start with the total. How many pieces total were cut up? 4. So 4 goes on the denominator because 4 tells us the total amount of how much it's cut up into. And how many slices did each person get? 1. So, which fraction of the pie did each child eat? 1/4 of the pie is how much each person ate. And that, boys and girls, is our answer to the second problem. Okay? We have one more problem that we're going to work with, okay? Then you guys are going to go off on your own. Okay. Last problem here. Mr. Flowers. Oh, we got Mr. Flowers again. Mr. Flowers ordered some donuts for his family. 2 donuts. Just because 2 is in word form doesn't mean it's not counted. It is counted. So 2. So that's our number. So 2 donuts were chocolate and 1 was vanilla. If Mr. Flowers shares all of the donuts equally between himself, his wife, and his son, what fractional amount of donuts will each person receive? Okay, now let's go back to the second sentence because we're talking about himself, Mr. Flowers, his wife, and his son. That is 3 people that we are working with, okay? So 3 people 3 people want donuts. How many donuts are there total? Look back at the second sentence. 2 donuts were chocolate and 1 was vanilla. How many total donuts is that, chocolate and vanilla? 3. So we are working with 3 donuts total. And we are working with 3 people that want the donuts. So with that being said, let's use the piece. This one's 3, okay? All right, so we have Mr. Flowers gets 1 donut. His wife gets it. And then his son gets 1. So how many donuts does each person get? 1. Mr. Flowers gets 1. Wife gets 1. Son gets 1 donut because there's only 3 donuts there. So, what fractional amount of donuts will each person receive? 1/3 of the donuts will be given to each person. So boys and girls, when we are solving these types of problems, they're real world problems because people need to divide up food evenly so that everyone gets a fair share. So this is why fractions are really important, so that you can understand how fractions are used with everyday activities, especially when it comes to food. All right, boys and girls, this concludes today's lesson. Okay, so now you're going to go back into Schoology and you're going to finish the assignments that you need to complete. Again, if you need to rewatch this video, make sure you do so. And then if you are still struggling after rewatching, then you need to meet with Mrs. Strasbaugh at 9 a.m. She will be happy to reteach you this lesson and help you out further. It has been a pleasure talking to you today, and I will see you next time. Bye!